of the court, and you're here advising us to be respectful to federal judges, and you say they're evil members of the United States Supreme Court? Gag me with a spoon.
Taking their advice is like, it's like taking the advice of a nun about sex.
I don't believe you, not for a single second, and neither do the American people. It is finally over. The video Washington, D.C. tried to bury has just surfaced. Senator John Kennedy has officially unleashed a masterclass in common sense that has the political elite in a total meltdown. From exposing the secret money trail to the most brutal border takedowns in history, Kennedy is on a mission to uncover the truth. He has the receipts, he has the facts, and today he's bringing the entire House down. You've seen him roast them before, but you've never seen a takedown this savage. Watch as the legendary Louisiana senator turns the heat up on every bureaucrat who thought they could lie their way out. Massive "It's over" text on screen with fire effects. Buckle up, because for them, it's finally over. Watch until the very end.
Senate rules to be on TikTok, but now we can, and I just joined. My staff came to me and said I needed to join, and so I have joined, and I'm gonna, I don't know, talk about, to the extent that people care, what it's like to be a senator, and I may show some videos of other senators, and my supreme goal is to capture a video of Senator Graham picking his nose, and when I do, I put it up and show it to you.
Why are you picking on Senator Graham? He's your buddy.
He is my buddy. He's just so easy, you know, to pick on. I love Lindsey.
Well, I would imagine some of the main targets are going to be AOC and the squad members.
I may have something to say about them.
Oh, I think I'd bet on it. No, I don't think there's any doubt about it.
It'll be some serious stuff, too. For example, Iran. This is serious stuff.
Okay, let's talk about Iran. Now, the president said to get smart soon. The president also said, and Central Command is now saying, that they are preparing short, powerful waves of strikes now on top of the very successful blockade that has been going on. I think the time has probably come to go back to that. The president said we hit 75% of our military targets. We stopped at that point. They could wipe out that 25% in next to no time. Maybe that is the only language these people understand.
Well, here's what I've learned from our conflict with Iran. Number one, with Iran, if you turn the other cheek, they just stab you in the neck. You can't trust them. Number two, whether you like him or not, any fair-minded person would have to conclude that President Trump has oranges the size of beach balls. Illegal immigration is illegal immigration. Illegal immigration is illegal. Duh. We have laws against it. If you don't like them, you should change them. Our immigration statutes are not some second-tier laws that you can violate without consequence. They're the law. And I support their enforcement. And so do the vast majority of Americans. Now, how you enforce them matters. Our immigration laws should be enforced respecting human dignity. Our immigration laws should be enforced in accordance with due process. Our immigration laws should be enforced in accordance with equal protection and with the standards of reasonable suspicion clearly set forth in, I think it was 1969, a Supreme Court case called Terry v. Ohio. We should follow the law in enforcing our immigration laws. You have the right to protest. You don't have the right to protest violently. In fact, as I've said before, violence undermines the morality that the protesters say their movement is based upon. That's not an original idea. Dr. King knew that. Gandhi knew that. Mandela knew that. Violence is also dangerous. You can get hurt. And it's been my experience that most cops and members of ICE are cops. Most cops will leave you alone unless you do illegal stuff. Their job is to enforce the law. So protest all you want to, but don't do it violently. It is not going to end well. Now some have suggested that the American people are xenophobic and that they're racist when it comes to immigration. These people suggest that vetting people at the border is racist. I think it's prudent, and I think most Americans think it's prudent. Let me see if I can explain why. If I could ask these folks to keep this door shut for 10 seconds, please. Thank you. Most Americans, I read this somewhere once. Most Americans look at the southern border like they look at the front door of their home. Most Americans lock their front door at night. Why do they do that? They don't lock their front door at night because they hate everybody on the outside. They lock their front door at night because they love the people on the inside. And they lock their front door because they want to know who's coming into and out of their home. And that's the way people look at the southern border. They don't hate everybody that wants to come into America. In fact, we welcome 1 million of them, but they want to know who they are. They want folks properly vetted. That's why we have immigration laws. Now, remember a few minutes ago, I said my Democratic colleagues had no claim to a high horse? Let me explain why. When President Biden was president, and by the way, I wish him well in retirement. I hope he's doing well. He's had some illnesses, cancer. I wish him well in his retirement and in his health. But when President Biden was president, either he or some of his advisors who had authority on his behalf admitted into our country millions of folks illegally from all over the world. We don't know how many, 8 million, 12 million. Some people say 30 million. I don't know how many. But President Biden, it was like the price is right. Come on down. You don't have to follow our immigration laws. Just come on in. Now, I don't really know who was running President Biden's immigration program. I really don't. But I know this. They were one or two things. They were either so incompetent you wouldn't put them in charge of a ham sandwich, or they believed in open borders. I think they believed in open borders. And many of my Democratic colleagues who knew better, they did not say a word. And as a result, we have millions of people in our country. We don't know who they are, but we know they're in our country illegally. And a lot of Americans are opposed to that. It's one of the reasons, I think, that Vice President Harris lost the election. Why do most Americans oppose that? Well, first, as I told you, most Americans believe in the rule of law. They understand that illegal immigration is illegal. Most Americans think it's prudent, not racist, it's prudent to vet people at the border. Most Americans understand that if you want to come to our country legally, we have a process, and that it's unfair to people who have been waiting patiently in line to be properly vetted to allow anybody who can get across the border to jump the line. Most people understand that in America, understand that viscerally.
Andy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, welcome. I agree with you, by the way, for what it's worth, about getting the money out on the streets, literally. Let's see, I'm looking at your budget here. Your current budget is $12.5 billion. You're asking for $14.2 billion. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
That's a 14% increase. You want an extra $1.7 billion.
Yeah.
Okay. Explain to me why the American people would be better off giving you $1.7 billion than taking that $1.7 billion and spending it on infrastructure. I did a little math, and for $1.7 billion, we can resurface a 4-lane highway from Washington to Denver. So why are the American people better off giving you more money than putting it on infrastructure?
Well, thank you very much, Senator, and thank you for the question. It's a great question, and I think the way I would think about it is the $1.7 billion increase to the budget, my budget, is an investment in infrastructure as well. It's an infrastructure.
It's what? I'm sorry?
Infrastructure investment as well. It's an infrastructure investment in the American worker in this country. It's an opportunity for us to look at, as I think about the Department of Labor.
Well, do you believe excuse me if I interrupted, I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary, we don't have much time. Do you believe that every expenditure by the federal government is an investment? What's the difference between an investment and an expenditure?
An investment is an investment in the future of workers. An expenditure is an expenditure in building a bridge.
Okay. Well, if you have a union background, which I respect and admire, if we took $1.7 billion that you say you need more to run your department, and we spent that on infrastructure, that's going to create a lot of union jobs, isn't it?
It's going to create a lot of jobs, but we're also not going to be able to educate the workforce that needs those new jobs that are going to be created off of that infrastructure investment of new bridges.
But they're already educated. The people building the roads are already educated. They're good at what they do.
Well, Senator Reid just mentioned of an issue around literacy in this country. So again, it's an investment in helping people to be able to be retrained and trained in the jobs of the future. I come out of construction. I worked construction as well. The construction industry that I worked on in the early 90s and late 90s is different than the construction industry of today.
Yes, sir. Let me stop you for a second. I don't want to get too far afield here into a history of the construction industry. I used to work construction too. Let me be sure I understand what you're saying. When my constituents call me and they say, look, you're being asked to raise taxes to pay for infrastructure. Why, instead of putting $1.7 billion in extra taxes on us, why'd you give $1.7 billion to the Department of Labor? Why didn't you use that for infrastructure? Am I just supposed to say because the Department of Labor says they're going to make an investment? What metrics are you going to use this time next year to be able to prove to this Congress that your investment paid off better than $1.7 billion in infrastructure?
Well, before I answer that, let me just quickly go back to the tax question. I think the beauty for your constituents is that the infrastructure bills that's being negotiated right now does not raise taxes on the average American who earns under $400,000. So the average American is not paying for that.
That's not true.
Okay, well, that's not why I'm here today.
We just have to agree to disagree. Let me move on because I've got 1 minute left and I like to stay within my time. Does your agency conduct surveys?
As far as employee surveys?
Any surveys?
We do, yes.
Okay. Do you pay people?
Pay the people who do the surveys?
No, to take the survey.
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Well, here's what I'm asking. I'm not.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I need your help finding something out. One of my constituents got this in the mail. It's a letter. I know it's not under your jurisdiction, from the Census Bureau, and they ask him to fill out a form
on children's health. And he opened it up, and look what fell out. A $5 bill. And there's no reference in the letter to the $5 in cash he got from the federal government. What's this all about?
I have no idea. I'll
Can
look
you
into
help
that
me
for you.
find out?
I will help you find out.
I
didn't get one of those letters.
Well, I filled out my census, my survey. I want $5. And I
did too.
understand that the Biden administration is also sending people $40 gift cards.
I doubt that's from the Biden administration, but I will look
I
into
looked it up. It's on the internet. It must be true.
I will look into it for you, my friend.
Would you?
I promise.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
All right, sir.
Senator Shaheen.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
Senator from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gosh, Mr. President, I wish I didn't have to give this talk. I think it's a bipartisan observation that unfortunately Americans are paying a lot more for just about everything. I asked my staff to put together some inflation numbers, and they're just breathtaking. Gasoline up 50%. Rental cars up 42.9%. You need a used car or truck, they're up 26%. A turkey, 20.2%. Bacon, 20.2%. Beef, 20.1%. Pork chops, 15.9%. Bedroom furniture, 12% higher than last year. Eggs, 11.6% up. Televisions, up 10%. Frozen fruits and vegetables, up 7.5%. Chicken, up 8.8%. Shoes, up 8%. Baby food, up 8%. Children's clothes, up 7.6%, and I could keep going. Unbelievable. Now, Mr. President, I believe in calling them like I see them. I think most fair-minded Americans know that President Biden is responsible for this inflation. You don't have to be Einstein's cousin to figure that out. But put the politics aside. The shame of all this is that the burden of these price increases are falling on the backs of the American people. And while Washington is obsessed with the politics of it, the American people and the people in my state have to bear the cost. A lot of people, Mr. President, as you well know, just can't afford to pay 50% more to fill up their gas tanks. They can't afford to have to stop and go arrange a bank loan to go to the gas station or to the grocery store. And unfortunately for Americans in my state and your state and across the country, here with winter coming on, the cost of heating homes is also going up, just in time for temperatures to fall. So the cost of heating is going up and the temperatures are going down. A lot of families are going to have to shell out up to 30% more for natural gas than they did this past year. Ask them if their income went up 30%. As our days grow shorter, the economic landscape, unfortunately, is getting darker. Thanksgiving is just around the corner. It's a cherished American holiday. But even the holiday that Americans observe in order to count our blessings is coming with new hardships.
According to the New York Times, Mr. President, Thanksgiving 2021, and I quote, could be the most expensive meal in the history of the holiday. As I just mentioned a few seconds ago, frozen turkey is going to set you back 20% more than it did last year. If you want to enjoy, you like gravy with your turkey, well, get ready to pay 7% more for gravy. Maybe you don't eat meat. Maybe you're a vegan. Well, unfortunately, frozen vegetables are also going to cost you about 7 to 7.5% more. And the high prices only apply if you can find the food in the supermarkets. Some of these food products you can't find. You can't even find on Google with Google. There's no guarantee that the cranberry sauce and the sweet potatoes will be in stock come dinner time. Now, this is America. This is 2021. This isn't the Soviet Union 30, 40, 50 years ago. My God. Washington ought to hide its head in a bag. Now, the official general inflation rate is 6.2% higher than it was last October. And that happens to be the largest increase in over 30 years. But we all know, and I can tell you, real people in the real world who go to the grocery store and the clothing store and pay their insurance bill and go try to buy an automobile know that it is not 6.2%. It is a lot higher. Now, I need to ask a question, though. Are you really surprised? Are you really surprised that prices are rising when the Biden administration is printing money? When the Biden administration is exploding our debt? When the Biden administration is forfeiting America's energy independence? When the Biden administration is paying people to watch Netflix instead of to produce the goods we need? When the Biden administration is ignoring gridlock in our supply chain? American people aren't surprised. For months, the White House has turned gaslighting Americans about the inflation crisis into an art form, Madam President. White House officials pretend inflation, if you ask them, oh, it's just temporary. It's just a temporary problem. Temporary, a rat's rear end. It's actually a soul-crushing, job-killing tax on working Americans. That's what inflation is. Every time you go to the grocery store, your taxes go up. And inflation hits lower income and middle income families the hardest. The hardest. And anyone who doesn't believe that should ask Secretary Kerry whether fuel prices have grounded his private jet. Of course not. He's rich. He's got a private jet. He doesn't feel it. You know who feels it? The moms and dads in this country who get up every day and go to work and obey the law and pay their taxes and try to do the right thing by their kids and try to save a little money for retirement. That's who pays this tax that the economists call inflation. And this inflation didn't just appear out of nowhere. I mean, any economist with a pulse knows where this inflation came from. Inflation comes from too much money chasing too few goods. And when you have an administration, as we do with the Biden administration, that spends money like it was gully dirt, whose mantra is we can't possibly spend enough taxpayer money. There's just not enough hours in the day. Of course you're going to have inflation. Of course you're going to have inflation. Now, what's President Biden doing about it? Well, I've noticed that the Biden administration, when it comes to economics and other areas as well, they never make the same mistake twice. They make it 5 or 6 times just to be sure. So how's the Biden administration going to deal with this economic cancer of inflation, which is killing the American people? Their idea is, let's go pass a spending orgy bill, they call it reconciliation, of epic proportions, chock full of welfare blowouts when we can't afford the social programs we have now. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And a White House official claimed earlier this week that the president's, he calls it $1.75 trillion bill. It's going to end up, we all know, being a lot more than that. He says it'll actually reduce inflation. Right. And those aren't hogs in the hog lot. Just wait. The fact is, and unless you were in the quad playing Frisbee during Econ 101, you know this is the truth. The fact is that massive government spending has kept workers on the sidelines and has fueled inflation. But the only comfort the permanent Washington types are sending to folks gathered around an historically expensive Thanksgiving table is that more, not less, more of the same insane policies are coming down the pipeline through what the president calls the Build Back Better bill. And I think most Americans call the Build Back Broker bill. Have you looked at the bill? I've looked at the House bill. I've started reading it. I'm probably going to go broke just reading the thing. Now, neo-socialists love this bill. They love it like the devil loves sin. But the American people aren't going to love it. Louisianians aren't going to love it. Louisianians love their families. And they just want to provide for them, especially at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. And they can't do it with inflation raging. This Thanksgiving, what most Americans need the most is relief. Not just relief from inflation, but relief from bad leadership. Now, I want my friends in the Biden White House to know that I am genuinely interested in working with them to solve America's inflation problem. But you're not going to do it by spending more money. You're not going to do it by throwing gasoline on the fire. The first rule is to do no harm. Do no harm. And by that I mean that my Democratic friends should stop trying to ram this multi-trillion-dollar tax and spend bill through Congress. And they should stop it for 2 reasons. Americans don't want it, and Americans can't afford it. So, this Thanksgiving, Madam President, and I hope you have a good one, I hope my Democratic friends will give up on tying millstones around the neck of the American economy. I hope they will give up fueling inflation with another extremist spending orgy bill. And if they would do that, if they would just do that, Americans could sit down to eat next Thursday and give thanks that compassion and common sense have finally prevailed in Washington, D.C., where, frankly, on most issues, common sense is illegal. Madam President, I suggest the absence of a quorum.